So they have proposed that, I don't know if you'd heard that they've gotten a bid for the barge. And
Morning, everyone. I can't wait to hear what an exciting morning the CTV had.
So true.
Mary?
Well, yeah, we were not doing business, but I will comment on the number of men who showed up in white shirts at 5 o'clock in the morning.
For those who are joining us this morning, there was a fire drill at 5 a.m. So you all look very alert. So anyway, good morning and welcome to everyone who is here. I am going to adjourn the working meeting from yesterday, the workshop meeting, and we are going to change the schedule just slightly this morning. So I'm adjourning the workshop. We are going to go right into our action meeting, and we're going to shift some of the items this morning to accommodate some schedules and visitors who are here. And everyone who has signed up to speak has been notified that we'll be doing the public comment after we take up some commemorations this morning. So we are going to start with Branko Vlakic this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Secretary Valentine, Commissioner, CTV board members, good morning again. I have 4 decision briefings before you today. Decision briefing number 1 is from the Hanover County Board of Supervisors, Richmond District. Commemorative naming of the bridge over Route 295 on Route 627, Pole Green Road in Hanover County as the Lieutenant Bradford T. Clark Hanover Fire EMS Memorial Bridge. The Hanover County Board of Supervisors wants to honor and recognize this sacrifice of a first responder who gave his life while working to save the lives of others. State Route 627 Bridge
in support of our infrastructure, which is so important to the Commonwealth. I'm here as a delegate from Hanover County, also as the delegate for the deceased Brad Clark. Brad was a real hero. I know that his life and his story have been well chronicled over the last few weeks. He is the first firefighter to die in the line of duty in Hanover County's history. It puts special, I think, attention to those who serve, who assist motorists along our roadways, the troopers who do so and who have been likewise remembered, but also our firefighters and our first responders, EMS personnel that put their lives on the line to save others. It was a tragic event. I will tell you that the community has rallied. His wife, Melanie, feels very loved and appreciated. There's been tremendous generosity and philanthropy that has been extended to the family. I'm personal friends. My wife and I are very close with his brother Jonathan and his wife Rachel, and so it hits close to home for us as well, which is why I wanted to be here to thank you for your action. Delegate Fowler from Hanover, as well as Speaker Cox, supported legislation that's been filed. I'm so glad that you can take this action earlier so that the family can have this acknowledgement, and we thank you very much for your efforts.
Well, Delegate Peace, thank you very much for being here this morning. It means a lot to us, and I know how much it must mean to the family, so thank you. Please rise.
Decision briefing number 2 is from the Giles County Board of Supervisors, Salem District. Commemorative naming of the bridge on Route 673, Penville Road over Wolf Creek, Giles County as the James W. Stowers Memorial Bridge. The Giles County Board of Supervisors would like to memorialize the life and contributions of James Stowers to his community. Mr. Stowers was a lifelong resident of Giles County and utilized this bridge in his daily life. He served his community as a member and treasurer of the Wolf Creek Raritan Club and member of the Board of Trustees of the First Methodist Church of Narrows. Mr. Stowers passed away on July 18, 2018, leaving a legacy of care and giving for his family and community. VDOT supports this request.
Madam Chair, I move approval.
Okay.
Briefing number 3 from Arlington County, North Virginia District. Commemorative naming of the bridge on State Route 27, Washington Boulevard over State Route 110, Jefferson Davis Highway, Arlington County, as the Arlington Veterans Bridge. Arlington County wants to memorialize the lives and contributions of the generations of men and women who served their country in the United States Armed Forces during a VDOT project to repair and upgrade State Route 27 bridge over State Route 110. Design elements were incorporated to honor our nation's military. Bronze medallions were placed on each of the 6 bridge pillars, bearing the crest of the United States Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard, and the National Guard. VDOT had sought the county's partnership in determining a name that would honor our nation's military, and the Arlington County Military and Veterans Affairs Committee has recommended the proposed commemorative naming. VDOT supports this request. Decision briefing number 4 from the Carroll County Board of Supervisors, Salem District. Commemorative naming of the bridge on Route 606, Friars Road, over the New River, Carroll County, as the Dixon Ferry Bridge. Carroll County enacted a resolution extolling operation of the Dixon Ferry by the Dixon family. The Dixon family had lived on the New River since 1835 and operated the Dixon Ferry until it was flooded in 1940. The bridge in this naming was constructed in 1950, and no signage has been placed since construction. VDOT supports this request.
Mr.
Madam Chair, I move approval.
Delegate Pease, thank you again for being with us. Yes. We will now go into our public comment period. We only have one person signed up officially, but of course, if there's anyone else here, you will be given them the opportunity to speak should you wish to. And we have with us this morning Jeff Southard. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Southard. I'm the Executive Vice President of the Virginia Transportation Construction Alliance. We are the trade association that represents road building industry. Our 325 members work hand in hand with VDOT, DRPT, aviation, ports to plan, design, build, and maintain Virginia's transportation infrastructure. I'd like to commend the Secretary, her staff, and the Commissioner and his staff for the tremendous work they've done on the I-81 corridor study. I had a conversation last night with a former Secretary of Transportation who said he had read the study and it was one of the best pieces of work he'd ever seen come out of VDOT. I agree with that. I think the work will be a tremendous effort tremendous support in our effort to get dedicated funding for I-81. But during the Senate Bill 971 process and during the study that ensued afterwards, there was one question that was not asked that we thought was important to ask. And that was, what would be the economic impact in the corridor if the Commonwealth chose to invest $2 billion. We've all followed the stories of Amazon investing hundreds of millions of dollars in Northern Virginia and what it would mean. But nobody had asked the question, suppose there's a $2 billion investment in the corridor, what would happen to the economies in the corridor? So VTCA retained the economists at the American Road and Transportation Builders Association to do an analysis to say, let's assume the Commonwealth made that decision. Let's assume we made the decision to invest $2 billion in transportation improvements in the corridor. What would the economic impact be? The report is done, and I sent you all copies of it last week. If you didn't have a chance to read all 40 pages of it in your spare time, you can always find a copy of it at itstime81.com. But in the 1 minute I have left, Carol, I wanted to highlight.
I thought it started a little early.
Well, it's just, Carol and I were reminiscing that I hired her 18 years ago. I get a 30-second grace period, I think. So.
I didn't realize that.
Uh-oh, there it goes. Well, so much for my grace period. I wanted to point out some of the findings of that report because it turns out that if the General Assembly makes the decision to invest $2 billion in the corridor, it will have a major economic impact. Through all sectors of the economy, there will be $3.4 billion of economic activity. There'll be $1.8 billion contribution to the state's gross domestic product. State and local tax revenues will grow by $120 million. There will be 15,200 jobs in the corridor. 51% of those jobs will come from outside the construction industry. And the payroll will be $760 million a year. So I would encourage you all, when you take up your recommendation this morning, and when you have discussions with the General Assembly, and when we think back to investments like Amazon, a $2 billion investment in the 81 corridor is an economic shot in the arm to all of those communities along the corridor. So in addition to reducing congestion, increasing mobility, improving connectivity, and improving safety, we'll see a tremendous amount of economic activity in that corridor if we make that investment. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you for doing the economic analysis and sharing it with us. And on a separate sheet of paper, we also have with us this morning Jay Scudder. And Mr. Scudder and I just actually, you don't have to start the clock yet. We just, I don't want to take your time, but we actually officially met this morning, but we're actually neighbors. And so, and I know your parents in Lynchburg, and they live right around the block from me.
Spoken very highly of you.
Oh, you had to say that. So.
And even Bert. and even Bert, who I've known for
right,
quite,
exactly. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Secretary Valentine and members of the Commonwealth Transportation Board. And I've got a little bit of a cold, so bear with me. And I've been the city manager for Buena Vista 7 years now. Time flies when you're having fun. In that time period, VDOT has been a real partner for Buena Vista. Some of the major projects that our citizens have seen have been VDOT-initiated money. We used up all our 6-year plan money, that old money, did a lot of sidewalks, ADA accessibility, streetscape downtown. Right now we're in the middle of a Safe Routes to School project, and We also have taken advantage of the State of Good Repair money, which was a miracle on Sycamore Avenue. So the staff at VDOT have been really fantastic working with us, as our representative, Mr. Dixon Wentworth, as well. So now I come before you with an economic development access project out on 501 South near what we call the old Bluebird plant, which is now Munners. I think the acreage is wrong, but it's somewhere around 34 acres. It's been fallow since 1970. And we have the opportunity, partnering with Columbia Gas, to build a road, get that project in. It's about a $3.3 million investment. And we're real excited about it. It's kind of like 3 years ago when a rumor went around Buena Vista when a snowstorm was coming that we were out of salt. It went all through the city, and Mayor Hogan called me and said, "We're out of salt." I said, "No, we're not out of salt." Well, everybody knows Columbia Gas is coming. Everybody's really excited about it. I don't think we could do the project if we didn't get this money. So it's critical that the CTB approve this. And we're on a very tight timeline because Columbia Gas wants to be in this facility by the end of 19, so before the end of 19. So Buena Vista has forwarded the money for the engineering design work for the road. We've worked with VDOT on that, and so it's moving along very well. The estimate for the project is about $356,000. You know, we have to put it up here because, you know, we don't want to go over that amount. But it's a very important project for our city. We've got a lot of good things going on right now. And this project will essentially be the beginning of a new industrial park with rail access, you know, about 34 acres, as I said before, high-speed internet, Columbia Gas, so natural gas is there. And we're just real excited about it. And I look forward to your favorable consideration when you get to vote on it. Thank you very much. And I appreciate the work you all do.
Thank you, Mrs. Porter. Thank you for coming this morning and letting us know. And you're welcome back anytime. So thank you. Is there anyone else here today who would care to address the board? Okay, thank you. We will approve the minutes. And I think there was a bet whether or not I would remember to do that. Do I have a motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, thank you. I want to know who won the bet. Anyway. Okay, Mr. Donahue. May I say what a nice compliment from Mr. Southern this morning.
Oh, yes.
About the quality of the
I wasn't sure which way we were going there at first. Madam Chair, members of the board, Nick Donahue, I'm before you with a resolution that we discussed yesterday at the board meeting. You have the resolution regarding the I-81 corridor plan. What the resolution asks the board to do is to approve the executive summary of the report, which has been the action agenda, I believe that was sent out last week. If that was not, I apologize there. We sent a draft copy of the report out this morning. I want to stress the word draft because I know I found a misspelling in it around 6 a.m., but I don't know how to edit PDF, so it is still misspelled in the version that you have. You would then also authorize the secretary to make any modifications necessary to that report, provided they are consistent with the executive report, and to submit that to the General Assembly at least 1 day prior to the start of the General Assembly session, which is the requirement that was outlined in the Senate Bill 971. One other thing, based on the discussion yesterday, that we would like to put into the final report, which is not reflected in the executive summary, would be to, right now we have $43 million set aside for capital operations improvements and $100 million for the 3 ongoing items. There was discussion yesterday about whether those sums were sufficient to cover any potential additional technology innovations or other multimodal or truck parking needs. And so we would like to increase that sum in total from 143 to 200. That is not in that executive summary, which is why I'm explicitly noting it here today. And so we would like to seek the board's concurrence with that change as well. So with that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions about this, and we recommend the board approves the resolution.
Do I have a motion?
Move.
Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? Mr. Yates.
I do live nearby.
Hold on one second. Hold on. Mr. Williams.
Just some brief comments. The report that we received, I always pay close attention to what the legislature asked us to do, and the report that we received is front and center. I mean, it's exactly what they've asked for. I think we've given them a great project. I think we've given them a great menu to select from of how to fund it if they choose to do so. And it's the kind of work the CTB does on behalf of the legislature that really, I mean, it really sets us apart. And I think we do a great job with it. The staff has been tremendous, and I want to applaud you all that were involved in it, and all the transparency that we exhibited the entire process and all the public hearings. And I think we've got a great product here. Really good.
Mr. Dodson.
I would like to support the very wise words I thought our colleague Mr. Smoot said yesterday as to why this is such an important piece of work for this body. I would like to compliment our team of Nick and Mr. Manel and others that had a very short turnaround time to deliver a very comprehensive piece of work. I also would defer to the advice, sage advice of Mr. Williams as to we should back off of giving a recommendation with regard to how it should be funded, albeit we feel we probably know how it should be funded, but let the legislature make that determination. I think it's important to know that with this much importance, in a perfect world, we probably would have liked to have had a little more time to review the draft that Mary said we haven't seen yet until this morning, but that wasn't available. And so therefore I am comfortable with the direction of our executive summary. I think we should all take to heart the fact that there has been significant transparency with our public, with multiple public hearings, multiple public input, much media, and much discussion both ways. Nick and his staff have had meetings outside of these public meetings to various groups that wanted to have a better understanding and a discussion and as to what the recommendations mean. I think it's important that we as the CTB and individuals representing our respective districts take the opportunity to have dialogue with our elected representatives to give them the opportunity to have conversation with us, to share feelings and questions and give explanations as to whys that we've had the opportunity to hear that maybe they have not at this point. That's an important role that we, I believe, can serve in responding to not the legislative need, but to our public need of those who depend on I-81 and who have for many years now had to suffer tremendous delays, safety issues, that we are now are in a position to start the charge to improve, and we should feel good about that. And I hope that our legislature will embrace that as well. And so it doesn't stop here, it actually just begins here. And we look forward to a positive response and adoption for implementation. And again, thanks to the transportation staff and to VDOT for a job well done.
I want to say thank you, first of all, for responding to the request I made yesterday that we be able to see the report, and I agree with everything that said about the quality of the work here. It's really an incredible lift, and well done in language that most ordinary people are going to be able to understand, which is also really, really important. And that's the second reason I wanted to say something this morning. You know, yesterday Mr. Malbin mentioned, you know, that part of the job we have here as part of government is to help people build trust. In the process that Nick went through with staff, with all the folks up and down the corridor, is exactly the kind of thing that government does that builds trust. What you say in the meeting shows up in the final report. People don't feel like some surprise arose at the end. And I think that has been the watchword of this agency, certainly for the 2.5 years I've been on the board, but I think for longer than that. And these processes we have done where we actually go out, staff goes out and sits and listens and answers those hard questions, is going a long way, I think, to restoring the trust in VDOT, in DRP, in transportation overall in this Commonwealth. And it's really that larger change that I think all the staff need commendation for, because we were in a terrible spot 7, 8 years ago, and we are not now. And it is due to the incredible work of the people in these agencies and their commitment to helping people see why this is so important. So I just, you know, kudos to all of you. Thank you again for getting us the report so we can happily assent to it and do as Mr. Whitworth said, which is talk to our colleagues in our districts about it. Appreciate it.
I will just close with saying, first, thank you very much for your comments. It has been a tremendous effort. There has been incredible outreach to citizens, community groups, business groups, legislators, and I will also say businesses along the corridor. That has been a big part of our effort, meeting with individual businesses about how we could develop an improvement plan that really served them as well. So thank you very much for your comments. I will just point out that even as we make we give our approval this morning for the report to go to the General Assembly, recognizing that they're going to be using this information to make their best decision. We're doing the homework for those decisions. That work continues on the report. It's going to be revised. I hope it will be improved. And that work when it comes to operations and technology, multimodal enforcement, and truck parking is going to be ongoing, because as Mr. Whitworth said, it has been a very short turnaround. So with that, I don't want the vote today to in any way indicate that our work is done. It's not, as Mr. Whitworth said, we're really just beginning. So with that, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you, Mr. Donahue. And is Ben in the room? And
Back row, Sue. He's
Mr. Manel, thank you very much for all of your work. I mean, he's really been the project manager keeping everyone on track, so thank you very much. Angel Deem, good morning. How are you?
Thank you.
I think we have a meeting coming up. Okay. I know, I remembered, I know, is it today?
Afternoon.
Oh, well, there you go.
Good morning. I have before you today a resolution for approval of the location of the Skiffs Creek Connector project in eastern James City County. This project provides a 1-mile, 2-lane roadway connection between US 60 and Virginia 143 in the vicinity of numerous industrial parks in the area. As presented to the board in October, the environmental document was produced last summer. Public comment was received on that document, and alternative 1 was identified as the preferred. As the resolution notes, James City County has endorsed this alternative. Public comment supported it. It also enjoys concurrence from the federal environmental agencies involved in the study. So with that, we recommend approval.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. Good morning, Ms. Pryor. How are you?
I have 2 items for your consideration this morning. The first is the amendment of 6 projects to the 6-year improvement program. All of the projects are fully funded by a locality or an MPO, and they are exempt from Smart Scale, and I recommend your approval.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Second item is my normal monthly transfers of surplus funds from completed projects to scheduled projects, and I recommend your approval.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hello, Ms. Brown. Good morning.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, I have 3 action items for you today. Item number 5, first item is revenue sharing update policy and guidelines. As you recall, last month I updated you on changes we needed to make to the revenue sharing guidelines and the policy to be in conformance with legislative changes that were made this past session. So as a result, it is necessary to make these updates. Additionally, this year, as part of our application process, we will be including a pre-application with the revenue sharing program, similar to what we have for Smart Scale, and we've also made a couple of clarification updates. We would recommend your approval of the revised revenue sharing guidelines and the policy.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yes. I would just like to, as we discussed at the workshop last month, there were a number of changes, some changes here, but one of the changes that is in this particular revision has to do with the cap that was put on our revenue sharing, and this is what we have to do now because that is the existing law. I want to go on record to say that this was not the intent exactly of our committee study, and while at this time we can't, and it's probably not important enough to address putting this particular cap as it is, but I think in a year or two, I think we ought to revisit, as we do, this policy. This policy is subject to be revisited on a periodic basis, I believe. Isn't that correct, Ms. Brown? And I would encourage us to take another look at that cap to, again, see whether or not the intent of this legislative cap is really the intent of what we want to do for the future as to when and hopefully the time comes that smart scale money pool is increased, we would have the capability of making a decision to increase that allocation to revenue sharing. It doesn't affect this motion today, but I do want to go on record to say that it was the intent of the committee that there'd be more flexibility to that to look at it.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I also have 2 economic development access projects for you this month. The good news is both of these are for access road projects to traditional named businesses. The first is the City of Buena Vista and Stanton District has requested economic development access program funding to assist in providing access to the planned Columbia Gas of Virginia mobile operating development facility. The proposed project will provide a 24-foot pavement from South Magnolia to the parcel on which the Columbia Gas will be located. Columbia Gas is expected to result in the investment of $3.4 million and will provide 10 additional employee jobs. The City of Buena Vista will administer the project, and the Stanton District has concurred in the project design and estimate of $357,000 for the proposed access road. Virginia Economic Development Partnership has concurred in the project and determined that this business does qualify for the program funding. You previously heard from the town manager on their support of the project. We do recommend your approval of $357,000 unmatched for this project.
Secretary. Ms. Brown, normally we don't bring a project up before first discussing it. Is that correct?
I think if you're referring to, do we do a presentation at the workshop?
Yeah.
We traditionally have not done that.
And so I think maybe as a teaching moment for those that may not understand exactly what this is, because there's some debate as to whether or not we should or should not be involved in approving economic funding, which doesn't come out of transportation funds. It comes out of another fund, but we are directed to do the approval part because it involves roads. Is that correct? In this particular instance, this was a last-minute need that Buena Vista had, and as we all should do when these things come up, it's incumbent, I believe, with the CTB representative to make themselves familiar with the project. I did meet with Mr. Scudder and his team at Buena Vista. And I do support this. It's a very important process. This also will involve an addition of 12 FTEs and significant investment, and will also open other potential for economic development, which is sorely needed in that area right there. So I support it, but normally we would have this conversation at an earlier workshop before it is brought here for vote. Therefore, I make the motion.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Voted aye.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, for that clarification.
Speculative.
Right. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, next item, which also was not speculative. Item number 7 on the agenda, Chesterfield County in the Richmond District has requested Economic Development Access Program funding to assist in providing road access to the planned ERNI electronics manufacturing facility be located in the Waterford Business Park. The project will provide access from Treadger Lake Parkway to the ERNI electronics facility. The facility is expected to result in the investment of approximately $25 to $30 million. It will retain 30 existing employees at their current location facility, and it will add up to 105 additional jobs within the next 3 years. Chesterfield County will administer the project. The Richmond District has concurred in the estimate and design. The project cost is approximately $820,000. Virginia Economic Development Partnership has concurred in the project and determined this business does qualify for program funding. We recommend the approval of this project, $650,000, $500,000 unmatched, and $150,000 that would be matched.
Option. Second.
Second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We should just pause for a moment.
I have to vote for something from Ms. Brown.
I know.
Thank you.
Any opposed, please say nay. Thank you. Okay. Ms. Brown, congratulations. Mr. McLaughlin. Oh, I'm so sorry, Ms. Keene. So sorry. I was really jumping ahead.
Worries. Good morning, Madam Secretary and members of the board. I have one action item for you today, a location approval for the Waynesboro Southern Connector in the Stanton District. This first round Smart Scale project provides congestion relief at exit 94 and 96 on Interstate 64 in the city of Waynesboro. In addition, the project will improve access to industrial, commercial, and residential properties in the city. The combined location and design public hearing was held August 14th in 2018. The project was endorsed by City Council by resolution dated November 25th, 2013. The total cost of the project is currently estimated at $17.3 million. I request location approval for this project.
I make that motion and would comment that this was a project of Smart Scale Round 1, I believe, which has been approved.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So sorry. Mr. McLaughlin, I was very anxious to get to you.
While Michael's getting up here, I do want to just point out, this is actually an item that we briefed you all at the June workshop. Actually, in response to some of the comments we received from you all, our team has been doing a little bit more due diligence. We have brought it back for you as an action item today, but because it was several months ago that we first briefed you, and there's a number of members who were actually not here at the time, Mike is just very quickly going to show you, brief you on the item that we talked to you about in June, and then bring it forward to action.
I have here with me Linda Balderson, our Manager of Rail Industrial Access Programs. So thank you, Jennifer, for that introduction. Superb Solutions for You is an applicant for the Rail Industrial Access Program. As you can see in the map, they're based in Waverly, Virginia, just southeast of the Richmond area. Here's a good overview of the project location and the tie-in to Norfolk Southern Railroad. We have brought to you in the past a rail industrial access policy change, and we often refer to rail industrial access as the driveway. It provides the driveway from the facility to the main line, and you can see how close Norfolk Southern is to the proposed facility there for Superb Solutions. It is a startup water treatment chemical company, and since it is a startup, that's one of the reasons we did this extra due diligence. I will say that extra due diligence found that VEDP has sent a letter of support in this. They've also received a grant from the Housing and Community Development arm of the state via the County of Sussex. As you can see, one of the reasons this is a good application, they'll remove 260 carloads per year from the highway and local road system. The application is for $230,000, $230,810 from the RA funds out of a total $2.3 million estimated expenditure, and the rail cost will be $360,810. The capital expenditure outside of the $230,000 will be paid for by the applicant, and the cost overruns are the responsibility of the applicant. As I already mentioned, 260 rail cars will be coming to the new facility, 25 jobs, and that has also been certified by the by VEDP and by the Housing and Community Development grant they applied for. I think it's a good number that 55% of the inbound and outbound shipping will be done by rail. The application score of 6,100 points, as we've discussed here at this robust body, is actually a good score, and that is, according to Linda, one of the, right in the range of the average scores that have been approved by this body. The minimum threshold will be 10 new carloads. So with that, I'm happy to answer any of your questions here today. And then we'll then so move to ask your approval of this item.
Can you help me understand the difference between bullet 2 and 3, meaning the applicant will commit to 260 rail carloads annually, but the minimum threshold is 10? What does that mean?
So with our performance policy.
Microphone.
With our performance policy, they apply for 260 carloads. That is what they project that their business will do each year. Because they scored a 60, they can meet a minimum threshold of 10 carloads. It's based on a
Probably the issue is it says commit. Commit to me means commit, not project, not think. That was the problem I have. It says the applicant will commit to 260 rail cars. So then you get into the clawback, and how's the clawback, you know, how's all that? So I'm just confused by the commit versus the
If I may, we actually, I think about 2 years ago, made a change to the RIA policy, and that's really what this relates to, is that they are, when they apply for the grant, they do commit, or they've stated how many carloads they expect to move. When we evaluate applications, there's a number of different factors that go into their score, and some of those includes the jobs that are going to be created. As part of that, the change that the CTB made to the policy was that the clawback provision will only, we evaluate the minimum number of carloads that they would actually need to have a score that would make them eligible for funding. And I believe in this case, that's 10 carloads, because the other factors in their application was so high.
Get that.
Yeah.
I get that. I guess I'm taking issue with the word commit, because to me, you can't commit to 260, but then only have to commit to 10. I would just change the word to project, or thinks, or something. But the word commit means I've committed to it, and there's something that happens if I don't get there. So to me, it's just language. I got the policy.
This board never has the appetite to claw it back anyway.
Our applicants that we have clawed back.
I don't like that either.
I do want to clarify that we have actually had to exercise the clawback provisions in the past.
I'm going to support the action here, but I just was talking about the words.
In the past, didn't we had a larger commitment, and we held to a commitment, and that's where we got into problems. I didn't realize that we just put in a minimum that makes the score work. But how would the score work, for instance, if they did 10 carloads but only created 20 jobs? Would that change?
But
the clawback really is related to the carloads,
only
as opposed
to the
jobs. Yeah, but again, we establish, they apply for a certain amount, and that's what they are evaluated on, but then we also determine, you know, what would kick in with what would cause the clawback provisions to kick in to have a minimum score. And in this case, it's a much lower number because of the other benefits in their application, but the way that our agreements work is the clawback provisions are really just related to the carloads,
Chairman,
the jobs.
So I'm not a big fan of having a clawback provision and sort of subjectively deciding when and when not to use it. But having said that, let's pretend that the minimum is 10. Okay, so for every one car they don't send, it's 10% of the minimum. Does the clawback work like that, so that if they had 9 cars, they give 10% back? If they have 8 cars, they give 20% back. If they have 5 cars, they give 50% back?
It's prorated, yeah. And that was part of the policy change that was made, I think about 2 years ago, was to allow them the prorate based on what they actually have achieved. And part of, yeah, part of that was
ratably.
Yeah, well, part of what we saw was that in many cases, the applicants, there were cases that could have been beyond their control, that were impacting whether or not they were able to achieve their goals, some, sort of broader economic issues and things like that. In cases where they've made a decision to shut down their business or to actually cease all transport by rail as a business decision, those are cases when we do clawback. And we actually have, in several instances in the past, had to exercise those clawback provisions. So.
Yes. And a lot of the Rail Committee's done a lot of work on reforming these policies, and one being the Rail Industrial Access Program. And maybe I would just make a recommendation to the Rail Committee that perhaps in the January, February, March meeting, we do an update for new members so you all will know, how this program works and, how it is serving business and all the economic factors we're now looking at. So that might be helpful.
Happy to.
So
I would just
Ms.
point,
Hines.
I would just point out that all those changes did come. So the CTB made the changes in the policy. It wasn't just the Rail Committee.
Yes, I was just.
I mean, I just want to I want everybody to be sure that the Rail Committee doesn't have that power.
The work was done within the Rail Committee, and of course it came to the CTB. But yes, I was really trying to acknowledge the work of the committee, and then bringing the policy to the CTB. But yes, but anyone who would like to go, perhaps we will make that.
Join us.
Brief you one-on-one. We're happy to do that too.
Yes, we can do that as well, because I do think the changes were extremely helpful. So with that, I will ask for a motion.
Move.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Let's see. Jennifer Allen, hey, good morning.
Good morning, Madam Secretary, members of the board. I present to you for your approval a resolution related to the vital infrastructure. The resolution itself has several requests of you. The first request is for you to approve the vital infrastructure report so it may be submitted to the General Assembly. The second request is for VDOT to do a comprehensive review of its existing resources so that they could actually create a supplemental report to be submitted in December of 2019. And the third request, because we were receiving additional edits, we had to update the resolution that you had received originally in your package so that the commissioner could make edits to the draft report that you had reviewed. So with that, unless you have questions, we recommend that you approve the resolution.
Are the edits in there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So the edits are already in the. Okay.
I'm Shirley.
Mr. Miller.
I was in some conversations with Mr. Moore, who helped me understand a few things, and I think it's important that maybe the rest of us understand it as well. Last night we were talking about the Chincoteague Bridge being in there, and I asked why that was in there because we built it 8 years ago, and I drove over it going to Chincoteague with Allison. And I'm like, how could this be deficient or on this list as, Anyway, the way it works is if any part of any structure is considered fair, the whole structure is considered fair. So if in this case, in Chincoteague, there's some non-critical structure on the bridge that's fair. The critical structure of the bridge is good, but the whole bridge is now fair under the rules of the federal government. So there's things like there's idiosyncrasies in here that may, get your attention. How we could have a bridge that we built 8 years ago be a problem? And it's not really a problem. It's just the small parts of it that need to be dealt with, and that makes the whole thing fair. So there's some idiosyncrasies in these things. Not sure there's others that are just like this, but that's why that bridge is on that report, having just been built.
Madam Secretary.
I was really waiting to see. I was looking at you. Said, "Would you like to respond, Mr. Commissioner?"
The comments that Mr. Miller made are consistent with why that structure is in it, but I was responding, I think, back to Jennifer's comment and your comment with regard to the comments that we've received on the document. So let me go back to the resolution. The resolution that you had in your package previously was adopting the report as it was. During that period of time leading up to today, we have received additional comments from other individuals that are not that we need to incorporate into the document. So what we're asking, the resolution that's presented to you today is just simply giving me the authority, or the commissioner the authority, to incorporate those comments into the document and then present this back to the General Assembly for inclusion. Those comments are not included in the draft report since we have just received them as of Monday afternoon, as well as yesterday morning. So we are in the process of updating the document for submission to the General Assembly.
Secretary, it's fair to say, Mr. Britch, that these are not, they do not change the substance of the recommendations. They're cleaning up.
They're minor technical comments. It may be changing the word holistic to comprehensive and things of that nature. So they are not substantive to the overall document and the recommendations that have been presented to you.
Somebody at your door again. We've got a lot of visitors.
And since there's a recommendation in the report that says that we do recommend that we take a comprehensive look at it, so I think we can take this in one motion. Okay. So, yes.
Can answer that question. That Chickateague Bridge was built under an old standard where we did not use corrosion-resistant steel. It went out in the it was completed 2010, 2011. Our standard now for interstate and marine, and including going into bridges on the HRBT, is to use corrosion-resistant steel, and so that we do not have this issue anymore. That has actually changed probably 6 or 8 years ago. It's interesting that there was some discussion down on the HRBT that maybe we were being gold plating things by putting corrosion resistant steel, and I would say absolutely not. That is based on our experience and putting on the key corridors, and if we don't do this, we are going to continue to pay over the life cycle to not do so. So I would say you're absolutely right, and we have made that change.
Mr. Moore. So with that, do I have a motion?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Madam Secretary, members of the board. My name is Jitendra Ramchandani. I'm with Office of Intermodal Planning and Investment. Today we have an item in front of you which is VTrans implementation plan. This item was presented at the October CTB workshop. We also had an opportunity to brief you on one-on-one basis, most of you on one-on-one basis in August and September this year. We had an opportunity to brief Mr. Smoot since then, and we also have we received comments that we incorporated and presented in the October workshop. So today we are requesting board action. The staff recommendation is approval of the plan. One of the items in the plan is providing the board a progress report twice per calendar year. And so you will be hearing more on these items if these were to be approved.
A motion.
So moved.
Any discussion?
Could I just would like to make sure we're all aware, what we are adopting today are these 4 pages that show up as Appendix A. Is that correct?
That's correct, ma'am.
So this really just is about assigning responsibility to the various agencies to move these goals along. So we're not doing something new, we're not creating anything new. I had some concern expressed to me in my district from some folks of like, okay, so what are you guys trying to slip by us now? There really isn't anything. So I just wanted everybody to be clear, this is about who we're going to hold accountable at the state level for moving the work forward.
I think I asked a similar question when I was first presented with it as well. So yes, thank you for the clarification. Anything else? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Thank you. Great work, by the way. Mr. Caples, good morning.
Good morning, Madam Secretary, members of the board. I have 4 action items for your consideration this morning. The first project is order number N92. This is a Salem District job in Franklin County for the bridge replacement over Blackwater River. Had 7 bidders on this project. After conducting an analysis of the bids submitted, we have found that the bids both represent a good value as well as market value. Therefore, I recommend for your approval.
Mr. Smoot.
Move approval.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Mr. Kaspowitz, 7 bidders. Just thought I'd point that out.
Madam Secretary.
Next project is order number N75. This is a Richmond District job in Henrico County. This is for the bridges replacement over Route 156. This is Airport Drive, just east of the city here. We had 5 bidders on this project. Again, after conducting an analysis of the bids submitted, we found that both the bids represent good value and market value, and therefore I recommend for your approval.
Brown. All those in, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Next project is a maintenance-funded project, order number 627. This is a Fredericksburg District slurry seal contract. We had 2 bidders on this project. After conducting an analysis of the bids submitted, we find that they represent good value and therefore recommend for your approval.
Aye.
And the final project for your consideration today is order number N80. This is a Lynchburg District job in Campbell County. This is a bridge replacement over the Stanton River and Norfolk Southern Railway. Had 5 bidders from this project, and again, after conducting an analysis of the bids received, we find that the bids represent a good value as well as market value, and therefore recommend for your approval.
Yes, Madam Secretary, I recommend. I say my historical math.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the work. Before we go into new business, I am going to ask your indulgence to take a 10-minute break. In case you all need coffees or make a phone call. So anyway, we're just going to adjourn for a minute and we'll come back and close with new business. Thank you. I apologize. We just had a last-minute issue come up, and I really thank everyone who tried to work this through. So with that, we're not going to have a certain item on our new business. I was waiting for the final yes or no. Is there any other new business from the board? Mr. Dodson?
Yes, as Secretary, I would say to break a text on my family. Since I rarely use to wear ties outside of church, my whole family give me a new tie for Christmas.
At first I thought you said tithe. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Dodson. Very good. I'm going to ask Marshall Herman if she'll just give us a brief update from the announcement we made yesterday on the executive directive from the governor.
Thank you, Madam Secretary and members of the board. I am here to give you a brief update from yesterday's announcement about the governor's executive directive on the governor's executive leadership team for highway safety. We had some tremendous response, actually, and this is also in addition to the kickoff of the Your Say VA digital town hall. So we had tremendous reaction. The Virginia State Police actually did a Facebook Live video while we were doing this announcement yesterday. And as of 9 a.m. this morning, that video has been viewed more than 16,000 times. That's saying a lot. So additional social media messages have been going out from other state agencies, VDOT, Virginia State Police, DMV, as well as our other partners such as AAA. And so there's a lot going out there right now. We're really bringing this to the forefront in a combined effort that we're very excited about. We're very passionate about highway safety and trying to reduce the fatalities on our roadways. In addition, there's been a lot of news coverage throughout the Commonwealth, from Roanoke all the way out to Northern Virginia, TV, print, and radio. I have received a few calls as well to conduct some media interviews next week in Harrisonburg, so I'll be heading out there next week as well. But once again, we just want to thank everyone that attended yesterday. We want to thank all of you, members of the board, for supporting these efforts that we'll be doing in the coming years. This digital town hall that we're doing, Your Say VA, will also bring not only attention to distracted driving and what the public's views are about distracted driving and issues with distracted driving, but we're also asking them about other highway safety issues that they see. And that will actually help us figure out future public outreach campaigns during this time.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all the work you did to put this together. You and Deputy Secretary Washington and former Deputy Secretary Quinton Elliott, you all have led a tremendous effort, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Secretary, thank you. I have two items. One is I brought up the desire to have DRPT and work with VRE to look at weekend limited service on VRE. And I've talked to Delegate Bob Thomas, and he's interested in this as well. I don't think he's going to file legislation, so I'm hoping we can continue to have those discussions and actually come up with some proposals. I think it would go a long way as we're seeing more orange come. The good news is we're seeing a lot of construction around the region. The bad news is it's going to create more congestion. So some limited access would be helpful on the weekends, just the weekends, Saturday and Sunday. So I appreciate you continuing to look into that and coordinate.
Happy to continue to look into that.
Thank you.
Really, it's something we do need to work on with the VRE board.
Right.
To make sure they're willing to incur those costs
Right.
on it.
Right.
And as always, we have to negotiate slots with CSX.
Sure. I understand it's not easy, so, but appreciate it. And the second one is, you know, we just approved $50 million in contracts, and we've had this discussion before, and we couldn't find a way to measure the jobs equated with that, with the in this case, $50 million worth of contracts. Well, we heard from Jeff Souther this morning that there is a way to monetize that, or to at least tie jobs to those investments. And it would be nice if we could explore that, because I think that's important. You know, the jobs, the economic impact that just these contracts we let today, approved today, create around the Commonwealth. So if we can just continue to try to tie, to show how those contracts are creating jobs that would be, I think, beneficial.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something we can explore. Of course, theirs was really quite extensive.
Right.
But I'm going to think about how we can tie that in. We saw problems, and so we reach benchmarks.
Right.
But as far as doing the
But it sounds like they've got a formula that might be easier to get our arms around. But anyway.
and it's very well, and it's interesting because the numbers are not equal. We did ours, they did theirs. So, but anyway, no. But I think that's an interesting idea. I'm looking at all the communications people here, and I think that might be something to explore as we're putting out the releases. You know, is there a way we can follow up on the economic impact of the work?
Thank you.
I'll just ask Deputy Commissioner Carey, do you have any news about the weather coming up? Because for whatever reason, well, you know, when you talk about how important transportation is and the work that we do, it is, I was really asking for no snow for 4 years. So how are we doing? We didn't do so well the first year.
Yeah, we're prepared. We will see what the weather holds. Obviously, there's some forecasts that don't look very promising at this point, but that's a little ways out into Sunday, Monday for around the Richmond area, a little earlier to the western part of the state. I will say that just this morning I've been working with the communications staff. They are actively working with the Virginia State Police, Virginia Department of Emergency Management, and to make sure that all messaging is coordinated. We have a conference call also scheduled for Friday morning with all of our districts to make sure that we're mobilized at, to the degree that the weather dictates at that point. But we are definitely prepared for whatever comes. Hopefully it will veer south. No ill will on our neighbor states, but
So what are the early indications?
well, I mean, there are some forecasts for down, especially like Danville, Martinsville, over that way of, 14-ish. So hopefully not, but we'll be prepared.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes, ma'am, as we have fund, I think $19 million was spent already in relation to respond to the hurricane mostly in the southern part. So I'll be out there for a shovel run.
That could help save money right there. So
We are prepared for whatever comes at us. Hopefully it will be less, not more, because that's money that just goes away.
I know. Anyway, thank you. Just wanted y'all to be aware we do have weather coming. And then Mr. Davis, you're asking us to, you're asking us to do, I'm not sure what. Sorry?
No. No. I didn't order it. I didn't do it.
It's just, we just need to verify that you have an iTunes account, so you will leave to get your Gmail on time so it doesn't shut down on you. So please come see me before you leave there. We want to make sure you have it.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? With that, the last meeting of the year, and so I just wish you and your families a very happy and blessed, wonderful holiday. And just thank you so much. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you.